Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling in from today. Thanks for joining us. Um, Dave Miller, president at eMAM, and we're very excited about our summer webinar series. We did one on storage and archive management. Happy to share details on that. Today, we're talking about production asset management, creating media, and then we'll have another webinar coming up on delivery and packaging of media. After it's already produced. So I have today presenting Chuck Bulow. He's our VP Business Development. If you have any questions, put them in the question recording, and happy to share either the slide deck or a copy of today's webinar. But yeah, we have a lot of fun things brewing and some great options for helping people in organizations create their media. So let me turn over to Chuck Bulow. Thanks so much for joining us today.
All right, thanks, Dave. So we'll go through a few slides here. Let me click on the PowerPoint. There we go. So we'll go over just to give you an idea of what options we have with regards to production management and using eMAM in combination with all the NLE products that are out there. So with eMAM, we are obviously a media asset management system. So we are able to take in live content, file-based content from the NLE systems, organize the media, obviously then be able to create media through the panels and extensions that we work with on the NLE applications. We're able to then also collaborate and share that content and deliver in pretty much any kind of packaging as well, which we'll go over the next seminar. We'll go over a little bit more in detail on that. And then, of course, archive the system. And what's really key for us is that you're able to manage this system virtually anywhere. So cloud, on-premise, in a hybrid mode, multiple storage locations. We also work with many news applications, also playout systems like Playbox Neo, and others that are out there that we then share that media, send it out to those playout systems or news systems, and then of course, any kind of production systems as well. So again, we just have many options on the eMAM side, but the key points for using a MAM system with your NLEs is being able to then centralize all the media and give global access. So that media could be stored locally or up in the cloud. Depending on where your editors are, if they're local or remote, which most are these days, being able to then access through the MAM system and through the panel, through the applications, you're able to then find all that content. But we typically will then manage and organize all that raw content. You've got a couple of ways. We'll explain another way here in a minute here, but the one main process in which you upload and index the media within the MAM system, you can utilize our applications or web apps to then upload the content. And what's nice about that is then you can centralize it, you organize it within the categories, and then you add permissions to those categories and user groups that log in, and then assign the media to projects and users to edit those projects and collaborate on the project. So it's a lot of permission levels that you can set within the MAM system and be able to control who gets to see what, and then of course how they can process that media as well. But we then upload that content, create thumbnails, proxies, typically through a third-party transcoder that creates these proxies. Also mezzanine copies as well. We'll go over that a little bit as well as for offline edits and so on. But within the MAM system. What's really key for us is you're able to log the media within eMAM. So the media could be coming in live or on the file-based uploads and so on. You're able to log and create subclips, markers, and so on, and edit that content, and then drop that down onto a single cut timeline, single track timeline. Be able to do hard cuts with this, and pretty much create kind of a content-based rough cut of these sequences. And in most of the NLE systems, we can then pass on that sequence to that NLE system, and then have them be able to do obviously all the fancy cutting and editing and graphics and so on and transitions. But also with this cut, you can share the sequence in an email and have them then preview that within a web browser just to see what the cuts are and see what they like. But then again, also, we can then dump this right into Adobe Premiere or Avid, or I'm sorry, not Avid, but DaVinci Resolve, and then be able to then create the edits and then create sequences and bring those back into the eMAM system. And then, of course, share those as well. What's also key is that we do keep track of different versioning and so on within the system. So this first version that you see here, this is actually an eMAM project, not so much an Adobe or Final Cut or Premiere, or DaVinci Resolve, but this starts out as an eMAM project and then can be then turned in and converted to one of the other applications project files, so on. So again, rough cuts and so on, we can edit within the eMAM system here. So we do have panels and extensions with these different applications. So pretty much the Adobe Suite, Creative Cloud Suite is there. DaVinci Resolve, an extension. We have an extension with Final Cut. And then now, we just now added the Avid Media Encoder.
Composer.
Composer, thank you. Brain fart there a little bit, but so the idea really here is that you can actually go in and through Media Composer be able to then import or link media and then upload a sequence back up into the eMAM system. So we'll talk about that here in a second. All right, so the panels are going to be available all through the eMAM platform. So when you log into the eMAM system, you're able to then go to the apps location within your account and then be able to download these applications like the App Manager to upload then all the different extensions that are there. DaVinci Resolve's in here, the Adobe's in here as well. And then I'll show you the link also with the with Avid Media Composer as well. So users will go into their accounts. They'll go into the account and then click on the apps, and then this becomes available, and then they can download then the Mac or PC version or Windows version of the applications and install those panels. So starting with Adobe Creative Cloud, again, we're supporting now the latest and greatest from Adobe, working very closely with them and being able to update the system, of course, and then making sure that the panels are all compatible with the latest APIs and so on. So again, you have Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and of course, Media Encoder as well. So being able to then work within these panels within the NLE application or the editing application, and then be able to go in and actually see the media, find the media, and then, of course, import it and export it back to the eMAM system. So the key thing about the panel is that you can go in and start looking for projects. You can start looking for media that's based on a category, for example, or you can do some advanced search and find specific media that you're looking for that is indexed in the eMAM system. So the idea is that either you've uploaded, we'll talk about uploading through the panel here, but if you've uploaded all the media into the eMAM system, the editors can then go in through the panel, do an advanced search, find the content, and they'll be able to import that into a project. And we'll talk about MES and proxy edits and so on here in a second. But then be able to find that content, select the ones that they want, and then bring it in. That also involves in the project files as well. So we manage all of the versions of the media as well as the project files of the media, all within the eMAM system. Okay. So on the Adobe, again, this is the versioning. The nice thing about this is that I could start out as an eMAM project, which if you look at the graphic here at the very bottom, it says Space Project V1. That actually was an eMAM project and started out with rough cuts and so on, was brought into Premiere, and then it turned into a space project for Premiere, and then it had all the selected media and rough cut sequences and so on. But what we've done is we've been able to then store as somebody checked out that project and then checked it back into the eMAM system, we were able to then set up what the versions were, what dates they were created on, the different versions, and then by whom. So the different IDs go along with these versions of the project files. And then, of course, if the sequences are updated as well, so if somebody uploads a sequence and creates a new asset, we do version control there. So editors can actually go back a version if they'd like, or just go ahead and select the and check out the latest version here. But we manage that entire process for you. Again, we have the centralized location for all the projects. So typically what happens is people are sharing projects on OneDrive and others, and moving projects all over. You may not have all the graphics and all the videos that were used in a project. Things go offline and so on. But what we're doing is we're centralizing all the project and the media files, all the graphics, all the audio files. So it's guaranteed that the next time somebody checks out this project, they're going to have all the elements of that project, and then be able to then, again, go ahead and edit and then add their version back into the eMAM system. So now, the nice thing about it is, like, of course, on a MAM system, if you're familiar with us and others, you're able to go in and do advanced search, all based on metadata and various organizational structures of the media and so on. You have those same functions within the eMAM system. So I can do a very simple search, or I can do an enhanced search, or even a saved search with different criteria that I'm looking for, and then use the panel then to go in and find all those assets, and then, of course, import those into a project. So it's not like the editors are being shortchanged on all the different features. They're able to access all the different features that most of the MAM features that eMAM has. Now, what's unique, though, about the Adobe Premiere panel is we've just now integrated 12 Labs and DALL-E from OpenAI. So on the 12 Labs side, if you index the media inside of eMAM, then you use their service, which is 12 Labs AI service. You can upload or link your media with their service. They then create an index with embeds of all of your media, finding various things like spaceman walking in, somebody on the moon, or countryside, wine glass, or something of that nature. You can type out natural language, or you can go in and get highlights or chapters or summaries of those assets as well that have been indexed. And that's using the 12 Labs Pegasus application. That's built in actually to the panel. So if the media has been brought in, imported into a project, and then the media was tagged by AI through 12 Labs, the editor can actually type out a phrase or natural language phrase here and get the highlights based on what they're looking for. And so in this case here, like, they were looking for media that had spacemen and got the highlights, and then these are all the spots where that person was, an astronaut was in actually the shot. And then, of course, they can select that and then drop it right down onto the timeline. So it's quite unique that we've done and added this. If you've used or looked at OpenAI DALL-E, quite unique. You're able to actually go in, type out a phrase, and then it'll actually draw a picture for you. And so when you do have that picture that is in there, you can actually go in and change it a little bit, maybe, and say floating in space and working on, a space lab or something. It'll change the image for you, and then you can drop that right into your timeline as well, or into your project. So this is quite unique that we have this all within the Adobe Premiere panel only right now, currently, that we have that. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, we use a transcoder on the way in of media that's been ingested into eMAM. Okay, so what we can do on the ingest process, we can create a MES copy of any format that you'd like. So some editors like a certain version, but it's a tapered down version, so it's a little bit easier to import or download or localize or stream, say from the cloud. Maybe a MES copy first, and then work on a MES copy, create a sequence in more of a proxy view just for content sake and so on. And then later, when they check out the project again, they can select the original media and then relink with the original media and now do color finishing and rendering, final renders and things like that. So we help with the process on the checkout to either link, localize, or stream. Now, linking is where the editor is close to the media. Some have used like Lucid Link storage and things like that. So you do have options where you could just link right to the media, because typically that media is linked on a mounted drive with Lucid Link on your editing workstation. If you want to get into that, we can definitely talk you through all the different things that would go on there. You can localize the media, meaning I'm going to take a copy and bring it down to my local editing workstation and then work on it. And when I go back up, there's no upload needed because the media is already in eMAM. And then you will have an option to delete or remove anything that's been localized to clean off your local drive as well. We give you that option. And then thirdly, there's streaming. Streaming is done through Drastic Technologies Media Reactor. It is a software app that runs on your local machine, and you can actually stream the proxy or the original content from the cloud, from S3 buckets. So this is quite unique. Not sure how they do it. We can talk you through that and then work with you with Drastic, and they can work and tell you exactly how that process works. But those are all the options that you have there. So again, we do a check-in, check-out, and that kind of thing. So now, the one thing is when you do check out a project, nobody else can check that out. Okay, the media is still available in other projects and various things, so you're not locking that out. But the project itself is the one I'm working on. I'm going to edit with, and I'm going to check it back in, and it makes then the project available for others to check out. You do also have an option to lock the project. So if you finish with the project and you feel comfortable about the project, you can lock it so nobody else makes changes to it. And then, of course, your sequence is made and it's a new asset that's been uploaded and so on in the asset in the system. But the project itself also can be locked as well. And so again, we do have all the different versions that we manage, and of course also the sequences that you produced as well will have all different versions as well. Now, I had mentioned that you could upload the media through eMAM and upload into the eMAM system and index, and then import through the panel into your projects and say Adobe Premiere. Now, with Adobe Premiere, you also have the ability to start in Adobe Premiere and then make all your cuts, trim all your media, and then consolidate the media through Adobe Premiere and then upload into eMAM. Now, what that does is if you've got reality TV shows or commercials and B-roll and all that kind of stuff on your different projects, normally you're 7, 10, 15, 30 to 1 to number of minutes that you're really going to need. You could cut that down in Adobe Premiere first, consolidate it, it creates new media based on your cuts, and then you only upload those projects up into the MAM system, so you don't have 3-hour footage and all this raw content you're never going to use, and so on. So that's another way to actually upload media from the panel. The media has never been in eMAM yet, and through the panel, I'm uploading brand new media, and I'm also tagging it with metadata, category assignments, tags. I can create a project or creating a project here and then adding metadata to that project and so on. So that's quite unique in doing it that way as well. Now, in the panel itself, there's also tabs with each of the assets. So you could preview an asset, you can look at the metadata, you can update metadata, you can look at the history of that asset, you can look at the file version or any comments that have been made on that asset, all within the panel before you import it into the MAM system or into your project in Adobe Premiere, for example. Now, in that case too, you could also trigger, once you've uploaded a sequence, let's say, you could trigger a review and approve of that asset all within the panel without having to get out of the eMAM or the NLE system and then jump over and open up eMAM. You could actually trigger a review and approve as an editor of that asset or that sequence you just created, which is now a new asset. and I could send out a review and approve to internal and external folks, and then be able to then share that with those. And then all the comments and accept, reject would all be then tagged within the comment section. You've also have options where you get emails as well. And you could see email links and things like that, notifications and so on. But again, all through the panel without leaving the NLE system, you can definitely see all the comments there as well. So these would be like the comments and various things that you would see. You can also add your own comments. In some of the review and approve on internal users, they can also make markers and subclips, and then add time code based notes and so on your sequence. And then those time codes would also pass on and come back into the email or the NLE system through eMAM. So if I bring in that sequence and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to import this and I'm going to see everybody's comments with all the time code, I could lay that down on a track and then go right to those time codes and then see where they'd like me to make those edits and so on. So again, there's a lot going on right there, but we can kind of talk you through that as well if you have any questions. Okay, DaVinci Resolve we added a year and a half ago, I think it was. So we have an extension through DaVinci where you're able to access the media, access projects, upload media as well, back up into the eMAM system. So you're able to then go in, open up DaVinci, grab the project, download the project and the media, start working on that media, and then export if you'd like, and send out maybe a sequence in a certain format, and then be able to then upload that as a new asset into the eMAM system. So very, very similar to Adobe Premiere on this case here. So again, we do manage version control. So the different projects that you have, the different sequences that you have, and so on, and all the media, again, will have different versions of that media and the different versions of the projects. So we do then control and manage all the different versions. And again, you can check out a new version or the an earlier version as well. So again, we'll manage all of that process there for you. And again, this goes back to the same with the Premiere. It's, you know, being able to centralize all the projects, being able to find them inside the eMAM system, archive, and then restore if needed. You know, you can go in and then find all that content and all those project files, and then be able to restore those from, say, Deep Archive or Cloud, and then be able to go ahead and work on those. So again, we centralize all of the different projects and so on. And similar to on the Premiere side, we do have full search filters capabilities. So these are a list of like some of the save filters that I have built on different types of metadata or category or project information. I can then go ahead and search for all the content I'm looking for. In this case here, I was looking for the nature shots. And you can see with the one with the red line there, that's actually archived. And then I could click on that and then hit restore from here, and then be able to then restore that media as well, and then import that or download that into my DaVinci Resolve project. Okay, so on the Avid side, so we've just now added through the API, this is a growing and working in progress situation with the Avid Media Composer panel. So we're adding more and more features on a daily basis. So right up to speed, this is kind of where we are today. So I would imagine in another month or so, things are going to change a little bit more or more features and so on. But in this case here, through that app's web interface, you're able to then go in and download the Media Composer panel. And then we give you instructions as to where to place that file within the plugins for Avid and the panel. And so once you've done that, then the panel would be available then within the Avid Media Composer. Now, within the Media Composer, I can go in and then search for media through that panel. So very similar to the others, you're able to go into the eMAM system, open up this extension or panel, and then be able to search, do a simple search or advanced search, find the media inside of the eMAM system, and then link it with a project within your Media Composer. And so with that, then you're selecting the media, you're finding first off, or selecting first off the bin that you want the media to go into. So you go in and find all your video shots or your B-roll and so on and select a bin and then link that then with the project. So the media then is moved to the Media Composer and then linked with that media. And then at that point, you then can start doing your sequences and edits and various things beyond that. So the media then becomes available at this point. Media is now linked inside the Media Composer project. And then of course, now you can start going in and creating all your sequences and so on. Now, once the sequence is done, you are required to have the eMAM feeder open at this point. So the sequence is now inside your project in Media Composer, and you would then open up the window for eMAM feeder. And this is like one of the tabs within the panel. So the eMAM feeder is running in the background. The Media Composer tab is open then. You saw the Assets tab that's there. Next to it is the Media Composer sequence upload. You're dragging from the bin over to the feeder application. And then at that point, this sequence will then be rendered and then sent up back into eMAM as a new asset. And so it's now ready for upload and queued for upload and so on. So this is basically a sequence from Avid Media Composer, and then now ready and being uploaded then into the eMAM system. So that's so kind of to wrap up on the Avid side. You know, it's basically right now currently it's a link, not an import, but a link of the media, and then upload into the sequence. That's where we are currently today. Now, there are other options with different types of workflows. So there's ways in which we can use like MOG technologies, encoder, Telestream Vantage, NLT, others that are out there that do imports and links, imports into the Media Composer applications and so on. So like one here with MOG, we're working with MOG now, and encoder, we're fully integrated with them now to be able to then take media from eMAM and then deliver it right to an Avid workstation. So that's also possible. Telestream Vantage does the same thing, and so on. And we'll talk about some others here in a second. But being able to then take that media, run it through Vantage in this case here, and then deliver it directly to Nexus, production storage or standalone Media Composers as well. So it's an add-on. If you're already using MOG technologies as a transcoder with eMAM, of course, it's all part of it, or Telestream as well. So different options so far, and we'll just see kind of how the panel goes and develops and so on. But it definitely checks in the media through these two options that I just spoke of. So now the other one we're integrated with is NLT or NLT, the Near Archive system. So NL Technologies basically does the check-in, check-out, scanning of media within eMAM, making it available within Avid Media Composer, iNews as well, and so on. So they actually are doing the conversions with the AF, the Atom OP1A conversions and rewrappings and things like that, and doing the check-in process as well into the Media Composer. So again, users can then search for and preview the media, deliver it directly to Avid Workstation, and then be able to find the content, and then be able to import that directly into or right into a Media Composer project as well. So again, this is another option for you as well. Okay, going to wrap up some things here. Other additional things we've done to help out on the NLE side and production and so on. We've added a number of new AI systems. The OpenAI Whisper for speech to text. 12 Labs does the natural language search. So typing out a word, give me a churches in Italy or countryside, scuba divers, whatever it might be, you can just go ahead and type out that information and find it. And then of course import that or collect the media and then put it into a project as well. DeepGram is speech to text. And then Dolly, as I mentioned, typing out phrases and so on, will draw a picture for you. And then of course you can bring those in. So these are kind of how it looks. With 12 Labs, we're with Pegasus and Marengo, the different modules. So like Marengo here, being able to then go in, type out a natural language search. Like in this case here, I said, give me churches in Italy. It found all my media. And then what it does is it gives you in and out points of subclips or markers that I could drop right onto a timeline or store it inside of eMAM and then bring that over into Adobe or Dissolve, DaVinci Resolve, and then Avid as well. But being able to then take that media and then cut it up on the parts that I need quite quickly and find that. And then again on Pegasus, as you saw within the panel, this gives you like options for summary, chapter points, you know, and just giving you highlights. And what's cool about this is it takes some of the speech that's spoken about, like in this case here, the different churches, it'll actually read that out for you. Now, what I usually will do is I'll take that information and click on a subclip, and that'll actually store, there's little buttons right there that on the right-hand side, little grayed out areas there. I can create a subclip, copy that text and put it in the subclip. So I can then have that information stored inside of eMAM versus me having to go back up to 12 Labs and then re-index the media or, you know, do another search within 12 Labs. So again, you can kind of collect this information, create a subclip, and then store it over into the eMAM system. This is what DeepGram looks like. So you have different summaries and so on. So topics and entities. This will give you caption files, speech to text, and so on, being able to then search on any one of the words that are there, and then be able to then jump right to that spot. And then ways in which you can get a summary, get key topics that were spoken about, and various things. OpenAI Whisper. Now, by the way, the AI services are extra beyond the eMAM license. This one is one of the ones that's actually free, AI Whisper. You can actually install this on your local system or eMAM system and then be able to do speech to text as well. So again, you can run this locally and so on, keeping things, you know, all within the on-premise situation. And then of course, Dolly, this is kind of funny. I mean, you can go in and basically type out different things like I need a crowd shot or somebody running through an airport, a couple sailing in the Caribbean and so on. It's quite interesting, you know, and use the concept art and mock-ups and so on, and then be able to use that within your productions there as well. Okay, so what I wanted to do real quick is kind of go over to Adobe Premiere just to kind of give you an idea what the panel looks like. Again, in this situation here, like I had mentioned, you can actually start within Adobe Premiere and have these assets imported directly locally. And then I can actually take this and then export back up to the eMAM system. That will upload all of the media, put it into the right category, being able to then go in and add metadata to each of the assets that are going up, assign that based on project or based on category assignment. You can put those into the different categories, and of course your team would then be made available of their project so they can check it out as well. But within the items here as well, you can go in and actually search for projects, being able to then select the projects, and then with that, then be able to import those projects. And again, with that, I can select different versions as well. And then once I'm importing those, again, I can select the proxy or MES copy that was created for me on the ingest. And then of course, also link with the original media. So these options all depend on where you are and where the media is. So we can explain offline with those different options there as well. And then lastly here, I just want to kind of show you what happens in the background. You can go ahead and create local spots here for the media to be downloaded or proxies if you are going to localize the media. You also can use different transcoders. So you could use a cloud-based or server-based transcoder to process all your media that you're adding to eMAM. Or you can go ahead and just use the local media encoder as well, with all the different options of the different profiles. And they can, of course, also on the export of the sequences and so on, you can go ahead and use all the presets and so on that. And then the other thing is too, if you are uploading new media and fresh media that's stored and organized in bins within Adobe Premiere, you can also select those bins to create a category. What's key about that is my media and my project files will be organized when it goes up into the eMAM system in a category that I'm assigning it to, and then people will be able to see the project file, and then next to it then, of course, all of the graphics and the audio files and everything associated with that project and so on. But lots of controls here that you can add to it. And then again, being able to go in and search for media based on the category assignment, or you can go in and then look for assets all based on different types of searches. So if I'm looking at advanced search, and close that, and then also if I wanted to, I can go in and then search based on one of those options there that were all saved for me, which are key points of search criteria based on category assignment or custom metadata and so on. And then of course I can look at it in different ways and so on. Look at that. And then of course on the AI side, on the AI side, you're able to kind of go in and then search and create that highlights and so on that I showed you in the PowerPoints, and then of course on the Dolly side there as well. And then lastly, you'll always have a dashboard and know exactly what's happening. So when you're doing an upload or download, we can see exactly what the process is and what stage we are on the upload or the download side, and where your project's going and so on. So you'll always have that. And then lastly here, I'll just show you this real quick. This is the view in which I could look at all the metadata. I could look at the history of this asset, all the different comments, who's used it, what comments have come in, trigger that review and approve locally, or named users within the system or external users as well. And then lastly, then the file version. I could have multiple versions of my sequences or media here that I could select from before I import. All right, Dave.
Chuck, one of the questions for review and approval was, can you do multiple users or a group of users?
Yeah, that would depend on the, excuse me, the, that would depend on the selection here. Like I have a sales team here that's part of an email group. And so that would come back with that. Unfortunately, it would be the first person who accepts or rejects that happens. But if not, if you want individual accept, reject from each of the individuals, you'd have to select individually those people.
Okay.
But all of their comments would come back here. So. Okay. Anything else?
No, not for questions now.
Okay.
I mean, other
yeah,
questions.
That wraps up for me, Dave. I'll send it back to you there.
Oh, great. Okay. So other questions. So one is versions. Mm-hmm. So Adobe, obviously you're subscribing, but the Creative Cloud, you can use any of the Premiere, After Effects, InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator with eMAM. For Blackmagic, you're going to need the studio version, not the free version, which is $95. And for Avid, I think it's the enterprise version. Is that correct, Chuck?
I believe so, yes.
To have the eMAM panel inside. So that's another one of the questions. And I work on these questions. If you have other questions, please put them in the chat. And AI systems. So there's some that are full cloud. Obviously, your Microsoft Video Intelligence, Video Indexer, and AWS Recognition, everything else. 12 Labs. Most people run in the cloud. If it's a large system, you can reach out to them, and they could set it up in a local container. their pricing is public. DeepGram also has public pricing on the website, and some parts of that always are going to have to run in the cloud. OpenAI Whisper can run locally, as can DALL-E. Please do realize, if you're running any of the AI systems, you're also going to need infrastructure to support that. So, that's something to keep in mind. If it's a small volume, a lot of customers worldwide are using their web version. So you send it to Recognition, you send it to DeepGram, you send it to 12 labs in their cloud instance, and wait for the results to come back, and then you don't have to worry about setting up infrastructure or supporting a system. So, but there are certainly options, and as time goes on, there'll be more and more obviously options, but do realize if it's running locally, you're gonna have to have the infrastructure, and you're gonna have to support that system locally, like OpenAI Whisper. Other questions people had? Obviously, we'll be at IBC, so hopefully to see you. We're in Hall 1, right next to Hall 7, if you're attending, and we can also, send you, get on a separate, meeting and show you how this works for your team, or send you copies of today's webinar or the slide deck. I think we answered most of the questions. Let me know if there's any others that we can answer for you. And yeah, we're very excited to have multiple options for our customers, because some of them are running multiple systems, everything else. But yeah, thanks so much for your time today, and thanks for your interest, and have a great day.